sense it's brand strategy, but anybody can apply it to their creative work.
Brand strategy is important because it's important for you to be able to say who and what you are clearly. Otherwise, how's anybody else going to know why they care?
Boom.
So brand strategy matters. I mean, I know my brand strategy and I know what it's for. And if you're not clear, they're not going to hear you.
If you confuse, you lose.
What you are saying matters. And then they're also not going to care if you don't care. I mean, I think people feel with Warstic that they know we care to a tremendous level and they feel that passion.
The Perspective Podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, overcoming the inner critic, and growing your creative business. PC family, we have Ben Jenkins of One Fast Buffalo and Warstic on the show today. Ben, I would like to officially welcome you to the Perspective Podcast. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. And for those who don't know, like on the pre-chat, Ben and I are more acquaintances from a Conference of Circles conference, like I think it was 2017. You know, I saw you speak, took a ton of notes, and I followed along and seen the rise of Warstic along the way. So it's dope to finally like close the gap and get you on the show.
Yeah, that's probably the last time I saw anybody in person, because I think about that time is when I was telling you my investment partners in Warstic, which put me into that pretty much full time. And I've kind of been in the studio since, just working. I haven't been able to get anything fun like a conference. So
this is good, because then if anything, we're like peeling the rock that you've been living out under and bring it to the world, get your story out there more. So for those who may not know about you, can you give us a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself? And then we'll talk One Fast Buffalo and then Warstic.
Ooh, brief.
Tangents are allowed here.
I think my story is very relatable to most creative people, meaning, we all grew up doing something related to what we do now, right? So when I was growing up, I was basically, I love to draw and paint and make anything with Legos and all that stuff that you hear from a lot of creative people. But I was also very into sports, especially like a baseball, football, honestly, anything. I just love to compete. I love to be physical. And so I had a kind of a dual personality life growing up, and that continued all the way into college. When I say dual personality, right, I'm like, I had my art and my music friends, and I had my athlete, my jock friends. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of mix, right?
You're pretty much just like relaying my entire life right now in a mirror.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've met a handful of people with that, but I usually I don't find it a lot, but that continued. In college, I played baseball, and then I played some pro baseball after that. In college, obviously, I studied anything and everything. I studied architecture. I thought I wanted to be an architect, but it turns out I don't like math. I don't even know what math is, so that wasn't going to work. Art and painting, studied film, animation, just all kinds of things. Went to grad school for that as well. I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, mostly because I didn't know what else to do and I wasn't ready to be an adult. So I went and did that. I just kind of delayed things. And then, baseball at that point was over for me, which was for all of us, athlete kind of guys, when we take it to the point, college or pro or whatever, it's a pretty big part of my identity. So it was weird to kind of, for the first time, kind of shed that and go like, hey, I'm not that anymore. I dove headfirst into trying to find a job like everybody else. Couldn't find one.
How old were you around this age too, just so we can build this?
I probably finished grad school, because I went to college and then I played minor league baseball for a while. So I didn't graduate from graduate school until maybe 25, 26 even. Okay. So it's kind of in a way, I was kind of late to things. So I tried to get a job, came back to Texas, tried to get a job, wasn't even close to getting a job. Like, I was not refined at anything. I was like, I just wasn't a good one guy. I was always a multi-trick pony guy.
Jack of all trades, designer, creative kind of person. Yeah.
And I think I figured out at that point that's a good thing. But back then, no one would hire me because they wanted me to be one thing. Like, I want you to be a web designer. I want you to be a graphic designer. I want you to be a video guy or whatever it is. And I just, in that process, started trying to find freelance jobs as best I can of anything. Starting with the lowest hanging fruit, friends and family, mom, dad's friends, anything I could get. And I had done some of that when I was in minor league baseball, just sitting around in hotels that I am not good at. Like, I'm not going to sit in a hotel all day and watch soap operas. Like, I'm fidgety. I had a laptop at that point. So I was just trying to do anything to keep up my design skills and stuff. But I did manage really quickly to find some freelance work. And maybe in 5 or 6 months, I realized, no one's going to hire me anyway. I've always loved the freedom, the idea of the freedom of being a freelancer. So for about a year, I just did that. About a year into it, I realized, hey, this is what I do. That's it. This is what I do. But I formalized it into calling it One Fast Buffalo at that point. That's a whole different podcast of why, but that was a personal thing to me. And I saw really quickly how people's perception about me changed by just having like a name that wasn't my name, right? That was like my first lesson in kind of branding something. And then, OFB's going on 20 years at this point, and the story that, I would have told at Creative South is I did that for about 10 years, up to the point where I got pretty successful, but really not super happy, because I was just kind of living by the rules of what I thought you were supposed to be doing versus listen to myself and what I really cared about, right? And then about that time, and this was going back to like the financial crash and stuff like that, 2008, I just started kind of really listening to my own voice a little bit more about what I actually cared about doing, what I liked to do, what I was doing in my lifestyle that I cared about, and the things really that I wasn't doing that I knew I wanted to be doing. And that had to do with everything, man. That had to do with work, what type of work I was doing. That had to do with what I was doing with my family and my three sons, and not being outdoors like I knew I wanted to, and all kinds of things. So 2008 for me, like, it's weird. I seem to thrive in financial crashes and corona and world pandemics and stuff. I don't know why, because I'm having another kind of one of those epiphany years this year, but it's like, I just, I don't know. I like the struggle of that, and it makes me think. And so a lot for me changed about going back like 9-10 years. And that's when the initial ideas of like, what, I don't have to only live in this. I don't think I have to live only in this world of client artist relationship. It was really early on, and probably back then, I want to say like maybe Draplin. Some people were very early on, like Draplin. There was a couple art designers and agencies even kind of dabbling with doing their own brands even a decade ago. It's so long ago, I can't exactly remember, but it just was like starting to give people permission to do that, right? To get outside that client relationship and maybe just do something on your own. And that's when a lot of things started changing. I got rid of our big office and stopped trying to look big and started appreciating being small. And I started living most of the year in a 58 Airstream trailer, which was part of the family and changed my life, honestly. And I started getting back into the outdoors and realizing, man, I got it made. Like I can work with my hands on a laptop. I can make money, support this. I can learn to surf, learn to fly fish. And 10 years later, those things are my lifestyle and what I work to do. And my kids all do those things. And so like I could have never planned all the things that I've done, but I just figured that's what it's about. Just kind of moving along and listening to yourself. And
I think that's like a huge takeaway right there. Is so many people, you've kind of, again, said what I talk about a lot. I went through the path of feeling like I had to do freelance and I had to work with like the biggest names in order to get the clout, to get the respect, to live the life of a freedom, financially fulfilled freelancer. Yep. And then I also had to like do my merch and stuff on the side. I felt like these were all the things I had to do, when really it's like my soul, the inner voice, everything else was like, no, there's a different path. There's a different path. So like I vibe to it. And I think a lot of people are out there trying to live a life that someone else expects them to live.
Yeah, for sure.
From a creative path, especially.
Yeah, I think that's hard in the creative industry because it does seem like there's a formula to what you're supposed to be doing. And there's a formula to what success is defined as. If I had $1 for everybody, if anyone, you own a creative agency or whatever, they always ask, how many employees do you have? As if that's the measure, just a small example. but like, that's one is then, so, you know, as a competitive athlete, I think in my, you know, 20s up to mid 30s, I struggled with that because I was competitive. And if I'm trying to win this thing that I'm doing, well, I'm competing with other people or I'm this.
Everything's a game from this mindset of like an athlete for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be me if I didn't go through those 10 years of competing and trying to get the big clients and this and that. And I cut my teeth on all that stuff, and I wouldn't be me without it, but I wouldn't go back and do it again, for God's sake. I mean,
you got to go through the shit to figure out what actually.
Yeah. Like I tell a lot of people, honestly, I don't really have memories from that decade. I just worked, and I did a lot of work I didn't like. And I did a lot of, you know, way more in the interactive thing when I knew I wanted to be more branding and creating things and stuff like that. But hey man, you don't know until you know. You just got to go and keep figuring out and try to stay young enough feeling to keep it going, you know?
So where's One Fast Buffalo today? And where did the idea from Warstic come in? You know, the true athletic side of yourself really taking shape. So like, where's OFB today?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had grown it maybe, and I'm generalizing the years, like say 10 years ago, we had grown it to like a thing that had like 14, 15, 16 people. And we were more of what we were a small agency, you know, but with the financial crash and me kind of flipping out about what I cared about, I put that back down to about really 2 people, myself and my business partner, Christine, who's still with me to this day. And that's going on 15 years. And now she's the vice president at Warstic.
Oh shit, nice.
So we pretty much do everything. So, I mean, in a nutshell, we had the last 10 years of OFB up until about 3 years ago was awesome because it was just, she was the brand strategist. I was the designer. We came up with names for brands together with the clients. We were just a really well-oiled machine, 2 sides of the brain kind of team. And we can do big things in a small amount of time. So we purposely would take work from like September, October, all the way till like May, June, but then we would stop and we wouldn't take jobs, and we would not work in the summer at all. We had a good 6-7 year run of that where we were making really good money, and just really low stress because that work wasn't super challenging for us. I mean, it's just, we stripped everything down to branding. It's what we love to do about what we had been doing. We would not do anything else. We would not do ongoing marketing or interactive or anything. It's like, hey, you got an idea as an entrepreneur. We're going to help you kind of bring that to life and make it real. And that's what I love to do. And so we did that for a long time. And then this Warstic thing was purely one of the first, you know, kind of tiptoes into just trying to do some things on my own.
And what is Warstic for those who don't know?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Warstic essentially is a sporting goods brand at this point, that started, you know, actually 7-8 years ago as a wood bat, baseball bat brand. And then at this point has become, we've gotten into metal baseball bats, which is what's causing us to grow so quickly and be, I think, the fastest growing brand in baseball. And we're starting to branch into now, you know, girls softball, fast pitch was actually a really great market. Lacrosse sticks, hockey sticks, fly fishing rods, golf clubs. I mean, anything that's basically a stick, we're kind of into it. Right. And so
fucking crazy. Cause I saw like the early days of it, and now it's expanded 3 years from when I heard about it.
No, it kind of makes sense to me now, but I can't take credit for, you know, 8 years ago and going, I see everything it's going to be, but
all the sticks.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely about baseball. You know, the name came out of just life experiences and the way I played, which was like, I didn't play in a subtle manner. Like I went out and competed, and I was out to kill people, honestly. Problem is I was a little bit too much of a perfectionist to be a baseball player. That's not a good thing to be. You've got to be able to kind of like, you fail all the time. You got to be able to let it go. We designers don't do that. It works in design because I'll just grind on something until it's done. Right. But didn't work. But yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about Warstic that I think would be relative, you know, most relevant to your audience is like, it was just a small idea in the beginning. And the goal was I'd like to do a little business where I make something that I could put on a website and sell when I'm asleep. because that's the exact opposite of the client relationship, right? Which is, it's the ongoing communication, the ongoing thing. And I would
flip in tables at a restaurant as a server, dude. That's freelance to me.
Yeah. I mean, I said, I mean, it was definitely out of like, I don't want a client to tell me anything about what I should do here. I just would like to experience that one time. I was careful about saying that back then, but it wasn't really like, hey, I need to make this company into something that's going to make me rich someday. It's like, I just would like this little creative outlet where I don't get the feedback from someone. I'd like to put it up on the website. And if you like it, buy it. If you don't, get the fuck out. Because you're right. That was a different dynamic for me. So like, it was just custom made wood bats where I was working with a manufacturing partner, and you would go on the website and you would pick your colors and stuff. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, the bat would show up at your doorstep, and it was really simple. I had no inventory because it was all made to order, that kind of thing. So it was a really good, simple, kind of business that could be done remotely. I could do it from my trailer or whatever. I got my kids involved in it. It was very much for like 5 or 6 years, a hobby business that was just me and my kids. And it was fun. And I had no employees, no nothing, and then problem was, and I told myself that's what it was meant to be. The problem was I could just, at a certain point, I realized, okay, this is really selling this thing short in terms of what it could be. And it really developed its personality and knew what it was about. It's got a culture to it and a mentality to it and an attitude. And so 2015, one of my competitors tried to buy me out, actually, which was funny because I was so non-threatening at that point. They offered me,
but they saw the threat.
Huh?
They saw the culture, the attitude.
Well, I didn't get it at the time, but I was like, you know what? I either need to sell this or stop doing this or take this seriously. It was like one of these three choices.
Can you share what they offered here? Because I'm all about transparency, just to show like this is what it was.
I don't care. I mean, they offered, at that time, and again, I would spend maybe 10, 15% of my time maybe on Warstic. It would do like $150,000, $200,000 in sales online a year, which every bit of profit went in my pocket, so it was a nice little, just simple thing. And they offered me like $1.5 million to buy it, which for the amount of work and effort I had put in wasn't that bad. I was like, that's a lot of money to me.
Most people would take that.
Yeah. But here's where I didn't. They said, hey, I said, well, okay, well, what would I do once you guys buy me? Like, what would my role be in the company? And they said, oh, you wouldn't have a role because we wouldn't bring you into it.
Ooh.
And I pretty much, that's when it hit me. Oh, this is all about killing Warstic, because like you said, they see actually something that could potentially be a threat. And that was the intention, is like, let's crush them while they're small and make it go away.
And then comes in the athlete switch of, nope, time to compete.
It's funny you said that. Yeah.
That's how I would be.
I mean, I was like fired up. I walked out like, I know what I'm doing now, which is.
It's exactly what I would do.
And then, but at that point, I'm still sitting there with no investors, no nothing other than I had a lot of renewed energy to go, hey, so I want to take this seriously. I had to talk with my wife, kind of thought about OFB and all these things I do. And I'm like, I want to really put a full commitment into this thing, but I don't want to like stop working with clients fully or anything like that. But I mean, I got to the point where I was like, to really spin this up, I'm going to need money. I'm going to need an investor to just go faster. You know what I mean? I knew that I couldn't just sit there and do it by myself. So I just started talking honestly to old clients. And, in 15 years of working with clients, I knew a lot of people that do a lot of things. I know a lot of entrepreneurs. Yeah, I know a ton of entrepreneurs. An old client buddy of mine, I sat down with lunch. He's one of those guys. He's like, I see him as an entrepreneur first. Like, that's what he does. He knows about raising money. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything. I've never done that. So I just started talking to people, kind of picking their brain, that kind of thing that people hate for you to do to them. But if you don't do, you don't learn, right? So a buddy was like, hey, I had lunch the other day with this Major League Baseball player for the Texas Rangers, Ian Kinsler. I was like, well, I know who he is. He's one of the best players they've ever had. He's one of my favorite players. He goes, would you want to eat lunch with him and talk about it? And I was like, why not? Week later, I'm having lunch with him. telling him I do a little presentation at Warstic, and he's like, I'm in, man. I love this. And we talked for like 4 hours, the first meeting. And then the weird part, that really isn't that weird, because it's definitely been a thing that a Major League Baseball player might be an investor in a bat company.
Like a restaurant or a car dealership or anything.
Yeah, they got money, you know. They got money to spend, and they like to put it into, you know, it just doesn't sit there. That wasn't all that weird. The weird part of meeting Ian was that a couple weeks before, my now other business partner, this is the part that I would have never thought to do this, right? Like, so my other business partner is a pretty dang famous rock star named Jack White. Most people know him from like the White Stripes, Seven Nation Army, things like that. He had reached out, his company, Third Man Records, had reached out to us a couple weeks before I met Ian, just saying, hey man, I really like your stuff. We'd love to do some collaborative like bats with Jack and Third Man and stuff. And I was like, that's sick, man. I respect Jack as an artist. That would be sick to do that, you know? In the meeting with Ian, I'm sitting there talking, and he's like, why is Warstic doing well? I was like, I don't know, man. It's cool. It's cooler than other bat companies. There's just something more to it, better aesthetics, better attitude, better culture. The bar in sporting goods is really low when it comes to creativity. And I had mentioned that, like, we'd done collaborations with Shinola. We'd done collaborations with Coach, things like that. I mentioned the Jack thing, and he goes, oh, that's cool. I kind of know him. And I was like, what do you mean? You know Jack White? He goes, yeah, I play for the Tigers, and Jack's a huge Tigers fan, always has been. And he comes to the games sometimes and hangs out a little bit. So I've met him, and I was like, I just totally joked. I was like, oh, we should make Jack White like the big investor, right? But me and Ian just looked at each other kind of like, why not? You don't ask if you don't get, you don't get it.
Mouths don't get fed.
Yep. Like, the idea that Jack White would invest was still, we just had no fear about asking. We thought maybe there's a chance in hell he would say yes. Well, next day he emails him. Ian calls me. He's like, hey man, you want to go to Nashville and meet Jack White next week? And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. Why not? And I was scared shitless, honestly. But it was just the same thing. I walked in to Third Man Records. Jack's like, hey, Ben. And I'm like, how the fuck does he know who I am? You know, because he had looked into the whole thing. We sit down and we talk for 4 hours, and we walk out all business partners, basically. I mean, there's a little more legal work to be done. But, you know, we basically had a chance to kind of restart the company and do it right. It's very much a startup. We got about $1 million in seed capital to get into it. But I realized, just because you have money doesn't mean you have a plan about how to grow something. Like, growing something is extremely difficult, especially when you've never done it before. It's easy to kind of make something for us creative people, but when you actually take it as a business and go, okay, now we've got to grow this.
It's a totally
money is a tool. It's what you do with that money. And so for a year and a half, man, I honestly kind of grinded on who are we? What are we doing? How do we grow? Like, all these things. It's like I went to college again on like how to grow a business and
go brand strategy again.
Yeah, I kind of did what I trusted. You know, after about a year and a half, I'd done dumb things. Like, I had hired a marketing director for a competitor. I thought that was a good idea. That was a horrible idea. I did a lot of things that got us away from actually being what we were about and not trusting that, right? The instant I stopped doing that, I kind of, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just sit and do the marketing myself for a while to really understand what we need to do. And that actually clicked a little bit and started working. And then I was like, you know, the only thing better I can do than doing it myself would be to bring Christine over, who's kind of the other side of my brain. And we got very much into the brand strategy of Warstic and really nailed that. What really is this? Like, what is the message? Who is it for? What is it about? All these things, like, really in a serious fashion, like the most serious client job we had ever done. And then from then on, things kind of went from kind of flatline to this, you know? And so the growth has been, once we clicked, I don't know, something clicked and we started going, it's been, you know, 100, 150, 200% growth ever since, type thing. And you know, we've gone from a little $150 to $200,000 revenue company to like, you know, we're probably running 3 to 4 million, and it looks like maybe 8 to 10 at the end of next year, because we've gotten in, we kind of built the brand to be direct to consumer 100%. That was all direct to consumer growth. And then I'd had enough clients that were too beholding to the retail clients. So we built the brand direct. We've got a great cult following audience. We kill it with kind of the new adapters and stuff like that. But we always said no to retailers, and all of a sudden this year, in about March, it just felt like it was time. And so we're in Dick's Sporting Goods, we're in Shields, which is a badass sporting goods company, and it's just working, man. It's just all taken off. So it's like, yeah. So I'm glad I waited. It was probably more painful to do that way, but like we're in the driver's seat when it comes to the retailers, because they know we've got a lot of them with COVID this year are trying to do what we've already done, which is having a great online business. And we've already got that. So it's really strange in COVID this year to be actually going the opposite direction and going to retail to grow instead of adding their online channel. So, yeah.
So before we do a little screen share for those who don't know and who may be watching this on YouTube, and if you're just listening via audio, head over to the YouTube channel. I want to make things like relatable real quick in parallel, because anybody could just be like, oh man, this big time guest built this multi-million-dollar business, and that's why I want to build out this timeline for someone out there who's just sitting here like, how the fuck do I do this? Like, one, he took a while to find his path, early 20s, you know, like all over the place, similar to what I can relate to, similar to like what you can relate to if you're listening. And then he hired himself, started creating, designing, figuring out what he loved to do, which was like branding, spent 20 years building a business, had a passion project, seed idea, leveraged relationships he's built throughout the years with that business, and finding his voice and his style and his, I guess, the muse, the personality, the voice, the attitude, the culture within your brain. Like you go look within, trust what you're about. I love how you said that. Listen to your voice and gut and trust what you're about. And that's what we talk about here all the time in the show. Yeah. And then it was a slow growth. And most importantly, with the passion project of Warstic, you did that shit for you. It was play to get your family involved. You had zero intentions of making this $1 million. It was for fun, and it slowly scaled on its own. Everything we just talked about on his timeline is what we talk about here. And when you like put yourself into something that you truly love and enjoy, and it's about you without the pressure of monetizing it, things can scale and grow in an insane rapid pace, bigger than you could have ever imagined. That's how it's worked for me. That's how it's worked for you. And that's how it could work for you listening on the other end. So if I was trying to like package it all up for someone to be like, what, okay, how can I relate to this? I'm like, here you go. He's dropped so many dimes here. Now you just need to pick them up.
I'm the crappiest freelancer out there. I mean, I've done all that, you know, like I've gone to design school. I've done the job hunt. I've been rejected there. I've still never had a job, a paycheck to this day, other than minor league baseball. That's the only paycheck I've ever got in my life. I mean, I very much relate to the creative people. I think that there was just something missing for me, man. But I'm a bulldog when it comes to work. Like I'm glass chewing. Like once I know that I want to do it, but I'll take my time about figuring out what I want to do. You know what I mean?
That's it. People
I'll take my time about making sure I
patience.
Yeah.
People like patience.
I mean, I think in my 20s, I just did that. I just said, yes, take work, eat as much as I could and stuff. And that was the thing. It's like, okay, I got to slow down a little bit, not because I'm not afraid, because I'm afraid to work, but I want every job I do to count more. I want I only got so much creative life juice in me.
Intention.
How long I'm going to live, right?
You got to work fast to figure out what you actually want to do. So then you can be intentional with your time.
And I was like, I'm not 19 years old, you know, at this point, I'm like 33, 34, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And it's just kind of thinking like, well, what do I want to be doing when I'm 50, when I'm 60? Like, and it's just, you know, I'll take time to think about that kind of thing. And it wasn't so much me on my talks when I would speak to the creative industry. I think they got kind of framed more as a work-life balance thing, but I realized now they're more about a work-life alignment kind of thing.
Yes.
Just aligning what you care about. When you can, I mean, I can for sure say that I have a ton of freedom, and I work on only things that I really care about, and they flow right into my lifestyle. You know, like Baseball was a lifelong journey for me that years and years later, I put the two things together, and that's why it works. I'm not making it up. I lived and breathed that stuff for a long time. And then I'm like taking those two things that I've done most of my life and putting them together. But then, like I think I fly fish 73 days this year. That's great. And I'm completely obsessed. Whereas I didn't even know how to do it 10 years ago. And I've gotten super competent. And I love it. Like I can't, like right now I'm dying. Like it's so cold. I can't, like I'm freaking out. I can't do it. So I'm starting like a fly fishing brand, but it's like, I know what I'm getting into, right? Like I'm not going to launch a fly fishing brand next week and all of a sudden it's killing it. It's going to take years. Like it will take years. Like, and I know what I'm in for. So I'm very careful about, ideas are dangerous, and then designers and creative people are good at getting ideas. Doesn't mean you should pursue them all. You be really careful about the ones you do and try to go like full into it, knowing as an entrepreneur, it probably won't work, but do you have to be okay with that?
That's the beauty of a side hustle, because you're protected, or at least lower the risk because you have this steady thing. I want to, let me know if you can screen share on your end.
Yeah, I can.
I should. Okay. All the tabs.
Yeah. I might be a little hyper obsessive. Don't worry. Yeah, man. Like I don't even like. I was looking through this stuff today. At like it's almost like so much I don't even know where to go. So it's like more. What do you want to see? Like
I think the Warstic stuff, because it sounds like that's like the biggest thing people are going to be able to relate to. And I can plug all your portfolio stuff for this too.
And I don't care. Like I mean, you did. I did. I realized I didn't answer your question, which is where is OFP today? It's basically still me and Christine. And it's basically if someone comes knocking, they have something cool that we're interested in working on, we look at it.
Like a 10% of your bandwidth and 90% Warstic now?
Oh, I would say it's more like 1%.
1%, all right.
Because when I say we do this stuff fast, I mean, compared to like building a brand or running a company like this, I could do that stuff in almost my sleep, because it's one aspect of running an entire company and all the facets that go into that. The brand part has to be right, but it doesn't take an army to do it, So like we did a ton of like, where's that thing? Like this is a great brand that we created maybe 6-7 years ago that just sold for like $200 million. I didn't get a scrap of that. I got paid to do this, right? But it's like what we used to do, which is like this company is like, hey, I've got a whiskey idea. I'm in Texas. This is what we want to do, blah, blah, blah. We have no name. We have no identity. We don't know what to call it. We don't know anything, right? And I just loved that creation of bringing that into the world. And I learned just a lot about the people that were doing it. We're called entrepreneurs. It's this weird breed of people that it's a little crazy. And there was something really intriguing about what they do. This is another brand. I actually own part of this brand called Western Sun Vodka. And it's 7-8 years old. I did this about the time I started Warstic. It's killing it. It's doing really good. Need them to sell it. I rebranded a couple of baseball glove companies. This is another whiskey brand. So that's the kind of work we do, beer brands. I'm not saying I'm an alcoholic, but there's nothing more fun for me than like alcohol brands, because it's so evil. It's like, you should pick these products based on how they taste, but we walk into stores and we make visual choices. It's just the weirdest.
I get lost in the beer aisle just checking out the artwork.
It's so cool. Yeah, and it's beautiful, man. There's so much cool stuff. And it was, when I was 25 years old and doing the most crappy freelance jobs ever, I dreamed of getting jobs like those things, right? That was kind of the goal. But I knew that, right? But I think the important thing there is like, I knew what I wanted to get to and what I wanted to do. You said to do every crappy job in the world to get to do the first good one, and then do that well and get the other one, So that's Jack, me, and Ian. So this, is that my Warstic? Oh, here we go. Here's my Warstic. Yeah, so here's the roots of Warstic, right? Which is like, for your audience, like, Warstic very much was at first just a small identity project for myself. What am I doing? I'm doing like a baseball bat company, I think. What's it called? Why is it called that? What's that logo look like? What are all these little embellishments I can do? Where's a bat? That's crazy.
I like that illustrated bat series.
Yeah, and that's just gone crazy with all kinds of crazy things that we do. But it's funny how simple originally, is all kind of about discovering this mark that had meaning to it and giving meaning to it. We talk about, do I have it on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We teach kids that it's kind of like on the bat, it's like this. So it's like, this is the past, this is the future. In baseball and hitting or anything intense like that, it's all about being in the moment, or you're basically, you're done. So to be able to teach kids, not that, hey, you should buy my sporting goods, but whether you're playing baseball or you're dealing with COVID or whether you're dealing with anything hard, it's kind of about what I just said. And the entire brand focuses on that in like a million different iterations. But like the aesthetics as a designer, like your audience, I bet like most of them could create really cool looking things. But the reason this one works is it has that, but it has meaning to people, right? Mm-hmm. That is expressed through everything. And so when a parent hears a kid understand that concept, and then when that kid strikes out the next game, it doesn't throw his helmet or cry or anything like that. He understands that's part of it. It's a good thing. I mean, that's why the culture is built, into what it is. But like, this is one of the first products I ever did right here. This is probably like year one, which was just, what's the aesthetic of a bat that I would create for myself, not worrying what a client might say or what they think I should do, or even really what people would buy. I was like, that's what I want. If I'm going to swing a bat, I want that. And it was like one of this branding things that I did that I don't think a client would have let me do was every one of my competitors right here on the trademark is, can you see me still?
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm holding the bat, right here is where people put their name as big as possible, right? It's the branding opportunity. And my only challenge to myself was literally, hey, I'm not going to put my name on the front of the bat, but I want to put something that people know us by. And so the mark came about with just kind of thinking more about what's the simplest thing I could do that would be aesthetically pleasing on a bat, but could become a symbol. And then what I did is put the name on the back of the bat, which no one had done. I mean, it's a simple thing, but first, no one had done it. But I was like, well, if you design a great piece of modern furniture, you don't stick your name on the front of it, but you want people to know who did it. So it was a little bit more of that philosophy about what to do. So like, I tell people all the time, like, this is to me the difference between the chances that I think real entrepreneurs are willing to take versus when you're in this world of client stuff. There's some great entrepreneurs that are clients, and then there's some that like, they're more the type they want to have the safest thing. They want to know it's going to work. And the reality is that prevents you from taking the chances.
That's the corporate world I lived in, dude, for 6 years was safe. We want safe.
Yeah, I'm like, why? Why? Because you don't want to do something that changes the world in your industry. You just want to be number 3. Is that the plan? I mean, if the plan is to be number 3,
they have innovation in their tagline, and I'm like, well, you ain't innovating shit.
Right. Yeah. And I struggle with that with clients. That's why I just can only do so much client work, because I realize like those ongoing conversations where I'm trying to convince you that this is the right way to go, but I'm also telling you it might not work. If it was a sure thing, someone else would have done it, That's a lot of wasted back and forth energy. And that's why I'm like, I think that's part of my makeup now is like, I'm just only willing to give so much of those revolving conversations away. And so Christina and I are like, we'll do client work. Sometimes it's a great creative exercise. It's great to get away from Warstic and the other brands that we're doing. But like Christina and I plan to basically, One Fast Buffalo at this point is this. It's what we did with Warstic. It's like, we've got 5 or 6 ideas in the tank that when we feel like it's really time to dive in, we're going to test those brands out, and just do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's client work, there's client work. We're to the point where we don't need the client work, but, it's like I actually did some client work last week. It's amazing. Like we got a job can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
typical thing for us. Like, hey, we've got a new mezcal that we're coming out with. We have no idea what the story is, what to call it, anything. You know, we did our thing. The strategy part takes honestly longer than the design part. We came up with the name Unidos. They loved it. I sat down over Thanksgiving. I was really bored. I probably did this in a couple hours, but it's like, it's not about time. And then we showed it to them. They loved it and it's sold. It's done. Like it's done. And now they got to go through the grind of being entrepreneurs. And we're going to be like, we're here with you in spirit, guys. It's going to be hell.
Spirits.
Yeah, we're here in spirits, and it's going to be hell, you know? So good luck. But I just consider that almost like, it is definitely the side hustle now. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
that's funny.
It's definitely the side hustle. And it took
butter
probably why I had Warstic for 5 years was I didn't give myself permission for it to be the real thing. You know what I mean? Like I just felt obligated to clients. I felt obligated that this is what I do. I'm not allowed to go outside of this. And so, you know, I still probably until like last year didn't give myself full permission. Like, I mean, what else do I need to know? I'm like, okay, this is what I do. I get to do all the creativity that I could possibly imagine. I mean, I'm designing products every day. I'm designing a retail store. Probably the coolest thing that I'm getting to do is Jack bought us a building, and we got to. I mean, he's like, here's the building. Go build a headquarters. You know what I mean? So like, this is probably the most challenging but fun creative project I've gotten to do in my life, which is take this building. Exterior. I mean, we what's that?
Like interior and exterior design now?
The whole thing. Like we bought a building that was in really bad shape, 1941. We basically had to strip it down to the studs, rebuild the whole thing, design out what it is. So like this is a kind of visual of like what the showroom is. And just, you know, this is a coffee shop, cafe, lounge kind of thing that's going to be in there.
Sick.
So that's called the Double Hawk. So it's like Christina and I are like, oh, well, if we're going to have a cafe in there, we might as well brand it and run it as a real coffee shop.
Where's this located? So anybody listening?
This is in Dallas on Main Street, just like downtown in our kind of entertainment district called Deep Ellum, which makes no sense to have a sporting goods company in.
When's Target open date?
Probably we're only about 6-7 weeks away if everything goes well.
So by the time this comes out, we're talking in the future. So February, this is.
I hope it's opening right about that time. That would be great.
All right. Well, there's listeners.
I also hope that it actually looks like what I'm showing you, because I do tend to change my mind like all of this. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I mean is like, I think that's the entrepreneur part has allowed me to get into like the 2D, you know, like get away from the 2D stuff. And like, I'm learning how to make things
in the 3D world, tangible.
Like yeah, they're tangible. I can hold them, I can wear them. And then on top of all that, what's cool is there's kids getting base hits with these things, hitting their first home run in their life or something. And the emotion and stories that go into that. It's just, I don't know, it puts it all together for me. It's like, I love that I'm designing something that is in the real world that's getting used, and it's in sports, you know?
It makes an impact.
Yeah.
It's not just a nice thing to have. There's a reason. I think, and a lot of people, another takeaway there, anybody can just create something dope that pleases the peepers, you know, visually, a 2D post on Instagram, a pretty polished post, but like, why should someone care? What's the message? What's the context? What's the reason behind it? How is it going to provide any type of benefit solution or any type of value to someone? Why should anybody see themselves in your story? You know, and it's because you do all that. That's, in a sense, it's brand strategy, but anybody can apply it to their creative work.
Brand strategy is important because it's important for you to be able to say who and what you are clearly. Otherwise, how's anybody else going to know why they care?
Boom.
So brand strategy matters. I mean, I know my brand strategy and I know what it's for. And if you're not clear, they're not going to hear you.
If you confuse, you lose.
What you are saying matters. And then they're also not going to care if you don't care. I mean, I think people feel with Warstic that they know we care to a tremendous level. And they feel that passion, and we make sure and express it. But you know, it's cult behavior. I'm not gonna lie, like the best brands are cults in terms of behavior, because people want to be part of things but they've got to understand why do I need to be a part of this? And if you can clearly communicate that to people, you could be a successful cult leader, you know, but it's just not that easy.
Charles Manson's just running around in the creative world.
Yeah. It's just not that easy clients are the ones that, again, I met some really badass entrepreneurs that I've met a lot that they don't even understand that basic concept probably as much as creative people do. So I'm like, the creative people in the next 20 years might be creating some of the coolest brands out there, but they have to understand that they're capable of it, that running a business is something they're already doing. I mean, I didn't go to business school. I went to art school. And if you're willing to learn and problem solve, design is just constant problem solving, right? I mean, I wake up every day and I solve problems with my gang, you know, that's what we do. And in between all that crap, we try to make cool things, you know, that's the fun part. But
yeah, that's dope, man. I think there's just a lot, even if your story is unique, there's just still so many things that can parallel to someone on the other end who hasn't found their groove yet or figuring out what it is. Where can people go then to follow you online, support you, buy some Warstic? We got a Shields down the road. So I have a new studio, an office. I need to like get a bat now. I need to get some swag, get a hat, rock it on the show.
I mean, if you've got a Shields or a Dick's Sporting Goods near you right now, would probably help us most to go buy it there, because the more people, I mean, that's a huge deal for us. And if you don't, just go to warstic.com and check it out, buy stuff, and then visit our headquarters next year when everything clears up. Come down here because it's going to be a thing to see. It's not like our headquarters where we hunker down and we just work. I mean, we have a studio in there, but it's meant to be interactive with people and bring them in, entertain them. We've got a bat factory there. We've got a 2-story batting cage. We've got, it's a show. I mean, you can follow us on the Instagram. We don't try super hard like we should, but we've got that, our Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, we try. But for the creative types, it's a little tough. I mean, we really do, like all of our shirts and hats. We've got some really cool stuff, whether you're an actual baseball player. If you have an appreciation for baseball, there's probably something there for you. Don't have to actually play, you know?
I mean, I used to play, but I still rock the hell out of all of that. That's stuff I would wear, you know, flat bill, like what you're wearing right now. I'd rock that. Well, I appreciate your time. I'll make sure to link up One Fast Buffalo too in the show notes as well. Okay. And it's a pleasure to finally get a chance to like have a real conversation with you. And no problem. Thanks for dropping some dimes and some gold on the listeners today. I appreciate you, man.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
We'll be in touch. Peace. Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.